Okay, so this is going to be the start of the video for supply. So again, I'm splitting this up into 3 parts. The first part being our discussion of demand, this being now the second part, discussion of supply, and the third part will be an extended discussion of putting the 3 together. Okay, so here we start. So if you remember, we had a description where we talk about a market. I'd used like natural fries and whatnot. I just bought a bag of Sour Patch Kids. I dare you to find someone that doesn't like it. So when I start off writing it like this is describing a market. So whenever you talk about demand and supply, it has to be demand and supply of something. In this case, I'm going to make it Sour Patch Kids. And then we draw our XY axis. So that's my second step I follow when I write this. And sometimes I'm very sloppy about it, and I shouldn't be because I'm supposed to be your example, but you need to put the labels on these axes. So on the y-axis, it's the price of Sour Patch Kids. And on the x-axis, it's going to be the quantity of Sour Patch Kids. And as we have written out before in the previous video, there's a downward sloping line. Now it can be a straight line. Sometimes on the internet, you're going to see it as a curve, straight line, doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you see that it's downward sloping. And the reason why it needs to be downward sloping if you remember, is our law of demand. As price falls, quantity rises. Inverse relationship, a movement along the curve from like point A to point B. That movement along the curve is caused by the fact that as the price of Sour Patch Kids falls, people decide to buy more of it. Now, so this is our transition slide. This is what you should have learned, right? And there were factors that can shift these demand curves, but now we're going to transition to our discussion of supply. Okay, so same sort of discussion here. We're going to be talking about the same space, the price quantity space, except now we're going to be talking about it from the seller's perspective. And there is, although not technically, for the purposes of this 100 level course, let's say that there's a law of supply, which basically then says, other things being equal, that as the price rises, the quantity supplied rises. If we were to draw this out, again, Sour Patch Kids market, quantity of Sour Patch Kids, price of Sour Patch Kids, and now we're saying the supply curve is upward sloping. Again, doesn't matter if it's a curve or a straight line, just needs to be upward sloping because of that law of supply. And again, remember in the background here, just based on the previous video, we had it the buyer's perspective, which was our demand. So supply can be understood in a number of perspectives, but again, it's the seller's perspective, we can either write out the price and quantity points. So we could make a table that has like, if the price is 1, quantity supplied is 15. If the price is 2, quantity supplied is 25, etc., etc. Or you can draw a graph. That's the most classic example here, where when the price is 1, quantity is 15. When the price is 2, quantity is 25. And you can add up the individual supply curves to equal a total market supply curve. Now, let's talk about what that relationship, how that's described here. Right, so as you're going to see here, here is our law of supply at work. This is describing it as a table. This is describing it as a graph. All this is saying, and again, I'm assuming you're comfortable reading slides. Really what I'm trying to do here is add the narrative, add the graphs, add the examples to this. So this is not meant to be a recitation of the slides. I'm assuming you can read. But essentially what we're doing here is we're adding up the individual supply curves to get a market supply curve. And that's what you see here. Oh, Ben and Jerry, adding them up, equaling the total. Adding them up equals the total. But at the price of 4, Ben wants 3. At the price of 4, Jerry wants 4. 3 and 4 is 7. Are Ben and Jerry, are they like brothers or are they just friends? It's unclear to me. I mean, I'm sure I could look it up. But at least I have you now wondering, and you're probably going to look it up too. You seem like quite characters. Okay, so we already know about movements, right? So what this slide is starting to transition you to here is, again, that there's a difference. Sorry. Is that there's a difference between movements and shifts. Movements are understood through the law of supply. And again, in the Sour Patch Kids market, what that's saying is upward sloping supply curve. What that's saying is that the price is changing. The price could be falling. As the price falls, quantity supplied, Q subscript S, falls. Or as the price rises, quantity supplied rises. Only caused by the change in price. As opposed to shifts. Now we're saying that something now we're saying that something other than the price is changing. And so if something other than the price is changing, it can cause supply to increase. And an increase in supply would look like this. S prime being where it's now. So that would be what an increase looks like. Decrease in supply. Looking like that. Let's just highlight this a little bit further here just to make sure we're all good. I'm making this on the fly here, so I'm not sure what I'm doing here is going to work, but let's go with it. No, let's pick this way, sorry. Sorry, let me do it this way. Sorry. Again, I'm making this on the fly, so. So here's our first part here. If I were to say something like an increase in the price causes an increase in the quantity supplied, I would write it out like this. This would be a movement along the curve, and it would look like that. This would be part of the law of supply. And I could do the reverse, or the opposing effect. Where my decrease in price causes a decrease in the quantity supplied. It would also be a movement described with the law of supply. It would look like that in symbols. And in the Sour Patch Kids market, I would be moving from C to D. As opposed to someone saying supply increases. This is going to be a shift of the curve. And it's going to look like this. This is not the law of supply. The law of supply has nothing to do with what I just said. What we're going to answer in the next few slides is why. Why? What is it that changed that caused that increase in supply? And the decrease is the shift to the left. Again, not the law of supply. Okay, this is already talked about this. This is just a pretty picture of what I just said. But again, notice decrease in supply. So we're saying the price stayed at $4. Let's say the price stayed at $4, but people are still buying. Well, people are buying less. So something clearly changed, such that even though the price is still $4, people are now buying less. Well, why is that? Well, there's a number of factors, but one of sorry, not people are buying. It's not people are buying less. Sorry, sellers are selling less. Why is it that sellers would all of a sudden sell less at $4 than they were previously? Something had to have changed. Well, one thing could be is that their costs have changed. Another thing that could change is technology. In this case, technology would be getting, I guess, worse and making it more expensive to deliver whatever this product is. We'll talk about these factors. These factors, there are 4 of them. Input prices, technology, expectations about future prices, and the number of sellers. Let's talk about each of these. So let's start first with input prices. So what we know is that in the production of any good, there's a number of inputs for things like labor costs, raw materials, etc. So if I'm making a movie, Tom Scheiding, the director, well, I'm also the financier of the movie. So let's think of all the things I'm going to need to buy to make a movie. Well, I'm going to need a camera. I'm going to need actors. I'm going to need a script. I need advertising. I need one of those like chairs, the chairs that have the thing where it opens up where it says like director. And when I need that little thing that like slams shut where I can say like cut. I need a bullhorn, right? Like something to yell at people at. What else do I need to make a movie? You're thinking this is an incredibly boring lecture, Scheiding. That's about it, let's say. Let's say that something changes and that the thing that happens is that all of a sudden the actors I used to make my movie all of a sudden unionize. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm total friend of the working person here, so I'm not doing an anti-labor union skit here or anything like that. Again, you don't have to agree with me. You seriously don't. I don't have to agree with you. I think we can coexist. But from a financial perspective, the whole purpose of unionization and collective bargaining is that the workers are wanting more for their work, right? They want like healthcare, they want a pension, they want certain things. Well, that's all going to cost me, the employer, money. So my wages go up. Oh my God, I found out that like in a month or two, Coming to America 2 is coming out on like Amazon, like on Prime Video. Isn't that so cool? Like Coming to America, that's such a great movie. And now there's going to be a second one. James Earl Jones, Arsenio Hall, like all the same people are all going to be in this. Most, well, I guess the ones that are still alive are going to be in the movie. So, like, right, they're better actors now, and maybe if they weren't in a union before, they're going to get in one. But also, too, they're going to demand more wages because we already had Coming to America 1 came out and it was pretty popular. Now, back in the day when it came out. Basically, supply is going to decrease. And so, in Hawaii, a pretty labor-friendly state that encourages unionization, it's going to make it a little hard for me. Unlike a state like Georgia. So in Georgia, um, where great TV shows like Family Feud and great shows like that, and then like, isn't there that one like, there's that like one show that everyone's watching, one of like vampires eat dead people or whatever. Um, the walking one, the Walking Dead people or something. Anyway, I know that that's filmed in Georgia. There's like a whole bunch of things that are now being filmed in Georgia. Why is it that they're all filming in Georgia? Because in Georgia, it's a right to work state. And what that means is that workers don't have to unionize, they can choose whatever they want to do. And so it makes it more employer friendly than union friendly. And Tom Scheiding, the snapping of his suspenders kind of movie financier, loves making movies in Georgia rather than Hawaii because in Georgia, I don't have to have my workers unionized. Everyone is moving their movie productions to Georgia. So the consequence of that if we have a lack of unions, that's going to cause an increase in supply. Okay. Technology is a little bit of a hard thing because usually it works in only one direction. But let's talk about it. Generally speaking, technology gets better. As it gets better, then workers get more productive. Right, so email is incredibly productive. I don't have to call up my colleagues. I can send them an email. I don't have to leave them a voicemail. I can send them an email. If UH was really cool, we'd have things like Slack where we could just instantly like message people and get things done even faster, but we don't. But as it stands, organizations want to use technology because it makes the organizations more efficient. It makes it less costly to produce each item. So the consequence of that is that, oh, I'm sorry, I'm making movies. In this case, in my movie production process, if I can find a way to, like the closed captions that appear at the bottom, like of a movie, if I don't have to hire someone to type it, but rather I can develop a technology that like does the words automatically, kind of like in YouTube, where it kind of like uses machine learning to do all the words. Like, let's say it gets better and it could just be done automatically. Well, then I don't have to hire someone to like type in subtitles. I knew someone once, by the way, who had to do that job. She was from California. She spoke pretty fluent Mandarin. No, she spoke Korean, and she had to watch Korean dramas, and she had to translate them and type in the English subtitles. And she got paid by the word, like a penny a word or 2 pennies a word. As she was describing it, it sounded like it sucked as a job. Probably just like any job. But still, I had to pay her a penny a word, right? Tom Scheiding, the movie director. If I can get rid of her and just buy a piece of software that does it automatically, good thing for Scheiding in his Korean dramas that he's making. Because that means now I can sell more Korean dramas at the same price. So if the price of a Korean drama of making it is $100,000, whereas I used to make one, now I make three. Generally speaking, technology does not get worse. The only way in which it would get worse is if, as a society, we thought that the technology was making civilization worse. Let's see an example. Let's say that I wasn't in favor of let's say that I like cashiers. I think that the profession of being a store cashier is a noble profession, and that they are the greatest people around. Well, the self-scan checkout threatens their existence and their livelihood, and it destroys American society, at least according to my weird belief. So I'm going to run for office, and I'm going to get a law passed that says self-scan checkouts are unfair, undemocratic, and destroy the livelihood of cashiers. So I ban that technology, and in banning that technology, I make the workplace less efficient. We all pay slightly more for our groceries because there's no self-scan checkout, but we live with it. So you can have some extreme examples where technology can technologically exist, but we ban its existence, then it can't go in the other direction. Factor number 3 and factor number 4, expectations about future prices and the number of sellers. Let's talk about each of these. No, I'm not going to. So back when the pandemic was at its kind of peak and things were really, really bad, I mean, you would buy, I was buying like toilet paper at Target, right? And dude, I got a big family. So like I'm more of your Costco, Sam's Club kind of toilet paper buyer, right? I need the big packs, right? And even then, it just goes through a lot. And I'm not trying to discourage people from using toilet paper. I'm just saying I go through a lot. So buying a little 4-pack at Target is like a drop in the bucket of the need in the Scheiding household for for paper products. But yet, I paid really high prices for paper products like toilet paper at Target because you you either you couldn't find it or it was even more expensive at the few places that did have it. And yet I was still buying it. And from the seller's perspective, right? Like Target realized, hey, I don't have to give like super red discounts to like Scheiding buying toilet paper because he's not buying it for convenience. He's buying it because he thinks that the future price is even going to be higher. So he's buying it now. But I, as the seller, I'm not going to be too happy about doing this because I know if I just wait a little bit to sell it, I can actually get a higher price. So if the seller thinks the price will rise, If the seller thinks that the price will rise in the future, then they're actually going to reduce their current supply. So this graph is representing current supply. So they're not going to be too happy about producing this product and selling it now, because if they just wait, they can sell it at a higher price in the future. So they're going to restrict some of their current supply. Supply will decrease. If, on the other hand, people think that the price will fall in the future, then they're probably going to want to get rid of it right now. Supply will increase. And then our final, I think this is the final one. Number of sellers. This one's pretty easy. Sorry, not Sour Patch Kids. Scheiding's making a movie. If all of a sudden people realize, wow, I can make a movie too. I can just make it with my phone, or, you know, everyone's got access, cheaper access to the technology to make their own movies, then that supply will increase. So if the number of sellers increase, supply will increase, and vice versa. Movement along the curve. Versus a shift of the curve, or a shift of the curve. Okay, that ends this video about supply. And so now the third video of this will then talk about putting it all together.